Travis Wingoodsell. I had obtained a short video from Candace Owens in which she shows evidence that has been left out of the Charlie Kirk case. Candace, you gotta turn it over to the prosecution and thus also the defense. You're withholding evidence from a case. The guy who gave it to you needs to hand it over. Even though he claims, he says it's for them, they don't have it. They need it. Especially when you make the claim at the end of your clip, there's no blood out the back. Candace! Candace! Don't work on making it public. Get it to the court. The defense really needs that footage. The whole case is destroyed, Candace. That's what you found. Hand it over now. A human life is in jeopardy. Tyler Robinson is vindicated with that backdrop kill shot. For the rest of the world, Candace, who saw the front kill shot, we already know. And for some reason, that's not being used in evidence. That doesn't make any sense either, other than a cover-up that this isn't intended to actually go to trial. That this is just a delay tactic and a diversion, so that the actual shooter got away. And this is a secret combination, a criminal conspiracy that has occurred. Again, another piece of evidence that demonstrates a conspiracy cover-up. Just utterly horrifying that this could be perpetrated in the United States of America, in front of the whole world. So, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that, because we got to set up for who is responsible. I know a secret, and I did try to notify my government numerous times over these years, and they are not listening to me. So that is different, Candace. If you make the attempt, I have a guy here who has the original footage shown here on other footage, taking out the SIM card from the camera. And they reject you, that's one thing. But if you don't come forward and say, here's the SIM card, here's the footage of me taking it out, no. You are now tampering with the investigation and tampering with the case. It now has to be declared a mistrial, and you're just extending out the agony for Tyler Robinson, who's the victim of all of this. The prosecution has created a vilification of Tyler that is nowhere near true, all so that they can use that against Tyler. an emotional attack. But I'm jumping the gun still. Jumping the gun. Star Trek. I'm sure most of you know of it. Am I wrong? Is there anybody out there who has no clue what Star Trek is? So, Star Trek starts out with the original series of Captain James Tiberius Kirk. And it just sparked a legacy. As I talked about yesterday in a video, there are origin stories. You have to stick to the original storyline. So you can't have somebody step in and reboot Star Trek by claiming they went through a wormhole, black hole, and now everything is different. Vulcan blew up. Leonard Nimoy as Spock is dead. Because it's a whole completely different show that cannot be put on the original timeline of Star Trek. Yeah, we all know that happened. The Kelvin reboot with Chris Pine as Captain Kirk. And they're coming out with a fourth movie next year, I guess, or something like that. Assuming the world doesn't end then. After all of these test runs being performed since 2020. I'm rushing ahead. I'm teasing you. And so, to go over the timeline, which some of the newer stuff came after the outcry by Trekkies for their disappointment with the movies destroying the whole show, creating a whole new world. This is strange. And so you've had a whole bunch of new stuff put in. And they stuck to the narrative. You've got Star Trek Enterprise, and they put these all in chronological order for us, the star dates, so that you can set them up on your digital device and watch them from beginning to end in chronological order. Even Star Trek Discovery, which the first two seasons are after Enterprise, but the other ones are at the very end. Seasons 3 through 5, far into the 32nd millennium. If you're familiar with that. And so, Enterprise uses Captain Pike in his origin story and how he came to be. And they can't just have him go off and doing his own thing and becoming completely something different than him and the whole incident that resulted in Captain Kirk becoming captain. They can't tamper with the narrative. They can't screw up the timeline. They can't put Enterprise in the 23rd millennia or century, whatever it's called. be century, I guess, if I do 20. You know, putting it before the undiscovered country. Trekkies will be all over that, complaining about how they botched it. And Enterprise would then lose respect and value, and nobody would care about it, and treat it as something completely separate from the actual narrative timeline. And so these newer creations helped fill in the blanks of what we were teased about from the original series on to the motion pictures and the spin-offs, Voyager and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, so that we now see the bigger narrative of Star Trek, the world of Star Trek, the universe of Star Trek. And so they have Enterprise 2151 to 2155, Discovery seasons 1 and 2, 2256, 2258, and we'll drop the times to shorten this up. Then Strange New Worlds, then the original series, then the animated series. This animated series made it so that having Lower Decks as a cartoon is acceptable, because the original narrative created an animated series, and therefore Lower Decks is perfectly fine and acceptable in this narrative, with some comedy ensuing. Lower Decks is actually probably my favorite of them, though Picard was very good for what they did to contribute to the whole thing. But that would require including Next Generation, and even though I know many people say Picard was the best captain, I have to disagree. Oh, this is war! I am not that fanatical. And so then you have the motion pictures that came out. And then the Wrath of Khan, the classic, which ties into Picard with the Next Generation of Data. So yes, they needed to stick to the narrative. They can't create something that is not part of it, because then it's not part of it. It's something else. And to steal the Star Trek name for it would be a copyright violation. Star Trek could sue their own selves for creating such an abomination. And so then the other movies, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, The Final Frontier, The Undiscovered Country, Section 31. That was very good. Stuck in right between the movies ending with Captain Kirk and the start of The Next Generation. Very impressive and very explanatory in filling that void in that time period. Because 2293 for The Undiscovered Country with 2364, that's quite a gap. So Section 31 is 40 years almost. It's actually 38 before Next Generation begins. Very impressive there. And so then the Star Trek Generations movie, First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis, and then Deep Space Nine, which actually should have been put before Nemesis, guys. Even before Insurrection. What the hell are you guys doing? Who did this order? It's out of order now. In fact, even before First Contact, yeah, it belongs after Generations. Because in Generations is when Deep Space Nine starts. God. Does that mean my order is wrong? Who did this? Now I'm going to have to go back and check and see if I have to reorganize things in my files. So yeah, that's weird. Anyway, won't worry about it now. And then Voyager also, oh my hell, that also has to come after Generations. Because that's when it starts. You have to keep it going with what it's going. And so season 3 is when First Contact was, and so I'd have to sneak in First Contact in between those seasons of Voyager, not to mention Deep Space Nine. So yes, if I were to do this accurately, that's how I would have to order it in my files, so that if I were to watch it in chronological timeline order, that's how it'd be done. Now there's individual episodes, they go back and forward in time. Those are too frustrating to deal with. To have a single episode in its own file in the chronological order. I don't know if I want to go that extreme. And so then Prodigy, Picard, Starfleet Academy. We know the time frame for when that is. And that is after the burn. That's the reboot Academy, not the original Academy. And then Discovery shows up in the future thereafter. So it's before Discovery's seasons 3 through 5, but after Picard. Although Picard also goes into the future. Well, no, that's that's 2399 to 2402. Starfleet Academy is the 32nd century. And so 31 to 3199 in that time period. And then Discovery Season 3 starts in 3188. So this is how good creators and writers, storytellers, narratives are done brilliantly. They make it seem real. They create realistic scenes, time frames. And so Lord of the Rings, they have maps and all that for Middle Earth, so that you see where they all come from. And J.R.R. Tolkien was just brilliant in all of that. Getting the time frames and such. So, any good series will do that for you. Star Trek or Star Wars likewise does that. It's important. So, in our reality, getting the historical narrative accurate is vital. I'm sure many, if not all of you, have heard about, if you do not learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. One of the ways to not learn from history is to have it erased or replaced with an alternative history. People end up repeating history because of the misinformation about history. And so when it comes to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it is a well-established fact that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints lies about its own origin story. They outright refuse, and they destroy people's lives who try to search for the real history, origins. They are obsessed with protecting the false narrative about church history, and thus get Mormons to be their soldiers to go out and destroy other people's lives to protect the hidden history and the chronology that they screw up. Because the first and second visions of Joseph Smith were not created until 1838. But by turning those into literal histories, they now are trying to claim, oh no, they're the origin stories. Everything is based on that. No, it wasn't. Because if Joseph didn't bring it out until 1838, no, it wasn't. So, kind of important to know your origin stories. So, Helaman, chapter 6. We have a story, which, yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims is literal history. We already know they lie, so we cannot trust them. We have to look at the Book of Mormon differently than how the church wants us to look at it. We're not going to go over that again for you in this video. But behold, verse 21. Satan did stir up the hearts of the more part of the Nephites, insomuch that they did unite with those bands of robbers. The Nephites are the good people. Satan is the bad person. And did enter into their covenants and their oaths. Religious, huh? That they would protect and preserve one another in whatsoever difficult circumstances they should be placed. And as you watch court news here in Utah, that's exactly what's done. If you're a Mormon, you've got a Mormon jury. As long as you're not a trans Antifa, furry, communist terrorist, you're going to get away with your crime. And it's very sad and pathetic, as one who grew up Mormon, to see this kind of behavior from my own people. That they should not suffer for their murders, their plunderings, and their stealings. So yes, we're leading up into Charlie Kirk's assassination, with Candace Owens withholding evidence. Owens. And it came to pass that they did have their signs, yea, their secret signs, and their secret words, and this that they might distinguish a brother who had entered into the covenant, that whatsoever wickedness his brother should do, he should not be injured by his brother, nor by those who did belong to this band, who had taken this covenant. And thus they might murder, plunder, steal, commit whoredoms, and all manner of wickedness, contrary to the laws of their country, and also the laws of their God. Secret signs and secret words. As the Pope came out and confessed 4 months late the other day that Christianity began in the timeline of American history, or world history. World, say I'm already taking it out of the timeline. In 325 CE. This means that Christianity did not exist before then. It was formulated, as the Pope worded it, in 325 CE. Therefore, the scriptures that are composed in the Christian formulated Bible, being written before the creation of Christianity, whose authors were Jews, therefore cannot be interpreted in any other way than Jewish, not Christian. Trekkies understand what I mean by this. That's why I used that as my example. There is a narrative of the Jews that cannot be tampered with. Christians tampered with it. That's why Christianity is a separate religion from the Jewish religion. This is not complicated. None of the religion, the doctrine, the theology, the rituals, none of it is the same. They're completely separate, despite using the same texts. Because there's mistranslations, misinterpretations, and misdefinitions. And in so doing, they pulled a secret combination with secret signs and words. Words getting redefined, reinterpreted, retranslated alternatively from what they should be, is this secret combination of secret words. You got little grade schoolers who created the secret combination word of 6-7. Need to round them all up and lock them away. Charge them as adults. But there are many, 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 many words in our current culture that have had an added definition to it because of our culture adding the definition that does not belong to it. For one example that everybody knows about, gay. It's Christmas time. Lots of Christmas songs have the word gay in it. That's not what they mean. And LGBTQIAPO+ in Canada 2S Christmas. Yeah, saying Merry Christmas does not make you gay. And then you have gang signs, which they got this with ASL, American Sign Language, and sign language generally. From people who are unable to speak, they've developed a language using their hands. That's a secret code. Another language is an encoded language, and it requires a translator or a decipherer to interpret it. And so during wartime, both sides try to encode their communications so that the enemy doesn't find out what their plans are for them. And so in World War II, you had the code breakers, as well as America utilized the Navajo Indians to create a coded communication that the Japanese could never break, and thus helped us win the war with the Navajo language. Very important. So when President Russell Marion Nelson infamously got up at conference, talked about how he knows all about the gathering of Israel, refuses to do it. And comes out and says, with the help of 2 Hebrew scholars, I learned that one of the meanings of the name Israel is let God prevail. And I have bugged him ever since. They even had to try to apologize with a revision of his talk in a video clip, leaving out with the help of 2 Hebrew scholars. Because of me and the videos I did. Genesis 32:28. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince thou hast power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. So Jacob in Hebrew where does Esau say you have been rightly named? I had skipped over it, I'm going to be very upset. Messengers, and then Jacob was greatly afraid. He saw Jacob, God of fathers, did not deliver me, I pray thee. Thou saidst, shall be good. Floods the night, goats, camels. My brother, I shall say, second, third, moreover, rose up, 2 wives, Jacob was left alone, wrestled with men, prevailed not against him. There we go. What's thy name? Jacob, okay. Is it in a completely different place? Yeah, it's the previous chapter. He said, thy brother came with subtlety and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? Because that refers to his baby name, meaning usurper. He usurped the birthright and blessing from his brother Esau, and thus was rightly named Jacob. But here he gets a new name, Israel. And we do not see it in English translation. Hebrew, specifically Paleo-Hebrew script, we see what's going on here. Because this is not translated correctly. In Hebrew, there are names that are composed of multiple other names or words within it. El, I think everybody knows, is God, right? And so, what then is Isra? The Genesis author gives you the meaning of the name by giving you the words made up in the name. So you see God, even though that's an Elohim, if not a Yahweh, I think it's an Elohim, but there's the El for God. And you see the word prince, power, men, and prevailed. Those are your options for the author in English translation, because we do not see them in the original Paleo-Hebrew. So Nelson said, oh, let God prevail. There's God, and there's prevailed. He threw 2 Hebrew scholars under the bus who shouldn't have been thrown under the bus. Because back in those days, there was Avraham Gileadi and John Tvetnes. And yet, look at the footnote, 28b. IA, he preserves with God. It may also mean, let God prevail. TG Israel, origins of. See, origin story. They must get this correct, because this is an origin story. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints talks about the house of Israel. The president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints talked about the gathering of the house of Israel. He kind of needs to get this right. So, for those of you who may not know or understand, back in verse 2a. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." So you see H-E-B. Mane, camp. Doctrine and Covenants, 64, verse 24. So why, for verse 28, is there an I-E instead of an H-E-B? That's because Avraham Gileadi, or even potentially John Tavednis, if he was working on the footnotes, I assume so, because it was two BYU scholars who were working on the footnotes for Paleo-Hebrew, just like for the reboot in the 2000s, for the 2009 release. And then they changed it for the 2013. You said it was just minor grammatical changes, guys. It was more than that. So, this means that the Hebrew that was put in was rejected. And the supervisor wouldn't have been smart enough to say, no, we can't have that. And so it would have been Bruce R. McConkie or M. Russell Ballard, who were also participants of this. M. Russell Ballard's not intelligent enough, so we can blame Bruce R. McConkie, who put in, "Let God prevail." This comes from the white supremacist Christian nationalists. This is their secret words of the Bible. This is why these groups become plantation owners of slaves, to justify it with the false translation of the Bible, pulling scriptures out of context to justify criminal, inhumane behavior. This is abominable. Not just to the Jews. And here it is in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the one and only one true church on the face of the whole earth. Screw the Jews. Prince. Big difference. The whole book of Genesis is about the birthright blessing and the transfer of authority of that birthright blessing. And a usurping brother every time. Every single time. So, interesting. Face of God, the sun rose. Interesting. Emmanuel. No, it is not Matthew's God with us. Again, you're not listening. In the news over this Thanksgiving weekend, we had Black Friday and then Cyber Monday. The news was reporting news about the great shopping deals available promoting Amazon or Walmart or whatever. YouTube had taken the previous advertising of a naked Asian AI character talking to women about how Tai Chi can change your eye color to a teenage girl talking to the naked Asian AI character about how she wants her daddy to look just like him. With the help of Tai Chi. Oh, that is so creepy and disturbing. YouTube puts it on because Google approved. They got paid. It's approved. You need to understand, if you're outside of Utah and you didn't know, Utah has banned all porn. And by all porn, I mean all porn. You're thinking porn in the sense of Pornhub or, sex and nudity. No, not in Utah. Immodest is porn. And so I can only hear about Sydney Sweeney. We're never allowed to see her. Apparently she's got good genes. I'll never know. But that's also part of this. Is Sydney Sweeney came out for the gene company to do an ad about how she's got good genes. It's a play on words. She's speaking. And so genes has multiple meanings. When spoken. When written, no. When spoken, yes. And so in and of itself, when you see the video about her wearing the jeans, talking about good genes, it's very clear. Even though you know very well from looking at her, she does have good genes with the other spelling. Anybody who denies that is a hater. Especially as a woman, when women have for millennia been body shamed and abused and sexually abused and berated by Christians, being called evil and sinful and porn. Because Eve fell, she's responsible. Got to cover up women and hide them for Eve's sin. And you're a Christian, huh? This is why Islam covers up their women with the burqa and the hijab, so that women are covered up and hidden, because women are to blame for causing men to desire sex. And thus, in Islam, the clothing that women are forced to wear or get beheaded or stoned is a symbol of their religious, patriarchal, sexual abuse and the violence to enforce it. And yet, when Utah Representative Lee saw them marching in the streets of Utah, he caught it on camera. Look at this. And everybody was appalled. Oh, this is Islamophobia. People rushed to judgment to condemn Lee, when all he did was say, look at this. That's it. And then people filled in the blanks. Didn't go according to the narrative. People made up their own narrative. The timeline was screwed up. See? I know what I'm talking about. The historical origins of Islam is purposely ignored and disregarded, so that the symbolic clothing is misinterpreted. It's a secret combination sign of the women in sexual bondage, whether the women are taught it or not. And so in America, where they've been granted asylum and now have betrayed America and must be banned and deported, they did not give up this secret combination symbol of their sexual abuse, being given freedom to live in America away from their sexual abusers. See, this is evidence against Stockholm Syndrome, which, yes, Die Hard also trashes. Stockholm, Sweden, Finland. Finland, Sweden, Finland. In the sense where the guy is rambling off about his book. At this point, the hostages are bonding with their captors. Wait, what? As you then show a woman getting dragged out by the hair and people screaming, guns bursting in air. Yeah, they're bonding all right. It's because of a psychologist. Psychologist under Stanley Smith Stevens, a Mormon, born in Utah, did his work in Colorado, came up with the categorization of human behavior using dichotomous and non-dichotomous categorization. Dichotomous categorization is one way or the other. Non-dichotomous, you've probably heard spectrum. Excuse me. So, when you do this with human behavior, you've falsified your whole claim. You can't do it. When a baby cries, is it bipolar? Need to give it drugs now? No. Outward manifestations of behavior are not a cause. That's where Stanley Smith Stevens went wrong. That's where psychologists go wrong. All of their diagnoses of mental retardation, special, awesome now. They keep changing the name of it because bullies pick up on it real quick. And psychologists don't. Because these psychologists, during the time when Stanley Smith Stevens was working on his work in Colorado, was during World War II, doing human experimentations on the Jews. And so after World War II, they were given asylum to come to America and other allied countries to perform human experimentations on Americans now. Specifically, Utah embraced it. Utah is now known worldwide as, oh my God, they're doing that. All last year, psychologists were demonstrating the fruits of psychology. Getting locked up in prison, getting treatment centers shut down. And yet, because they're considered a legitimate business, because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has one of their own called Family Services. And so, under Governor Cox, he merged the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services together. It's fully psychology. There is no medical doctors at all in it. The new concentration camp that they're building, that everybody found out about, going, oh crap, what the hell are you guys doing? Yeah. It's only run by psychologists. Exactly what the Nazis did to the Jews in Nazi Germany. And it's being done in Utah under the direction of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But they use different wording, different interpretation, so that nobody sees it until it's implemented. They have isolation booths at public schools for little children. It got exposed, and it's now escalated in use. They're just rounding up kids and isolating them in a room, preparing them for prison. And it's not getting stopped. They keep building more treatment centers. They keep hiring from their furthering education of psychologists. The ones who got busted, yeah, they're out. New ones come in and replace them. The problem still remains. Because it's not about behavior. It's about the causation for the behavior. And the causation for psychologists' behavior is a falsehood. They are incapable of being true, to speak truth. Everything is false. And it is being pushed throughout this land of Utah. So yes, that's the coming next video of Oaks from his conference talks for October 1985. The physical is known spiritually. We turned everything literal history, and you can know it fit spiritually. Don't use science. They aren't able to tell you the truth. The Spirit will tell you all the truth you need to know. Coming up sometime. The extra long weekend is over, so it depends on how much news comes out each night. And so, yeah, KSL, they backed off on the straightforward psychology and instead did a subtle psychological manipulation. The 3 must-play songs for December. On the surface, you're thinking, yeah, whatever. If it's not Die Hard, or if Die Hard's not on that list, it's not correct. But the news, being influenced by psychology in Utah, is telling their audiences how to think, how to feel, how to believe, how to behave, how to act. Because why can't you have Christmas every day of your life? In your heart. Oh! When summer comes along, my mind automatically starts coming up with Christmas songs. And so I find myself singing or humming to Christmas songs during the summertime. It's just what happens. So yes, we're going to have to use that as the theme song. Where do I have space for it? Imperial March, Carol of Bells, with Darth Vader in a Santa suit. This is psychology, and the news is doing it. The religion is doing it. Businesses are doing it. Everybody's doing it. Our government is doing it. Nazi Germans are thanking their American liberators after all these years, after all these decades. They got their revenge with the help of the CIA. the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because when I was a missionary in my suits, people thought I was working for the CIA. Very strange. Not the FBI? CIA, huh? CIA is not allowed to operate on American soil. Oh, Travis. Let me tell you some stories. Yeah, sadly. Sadly indeed. And so it is sad that, especially here in Utah, psychologists claim that they're medical doctors without saying they're medical doctors. Because if they said they're medical doctors, they would be impersonating a medical doctor, and that's a felony crime. They cannot say that, so they alter the wording so that we then fill in the blanks and say that they're medical doctors, because they're mental health, they're behavioral health, they're therapists, counselors, self-helpers. Gurus. Whatever crap they use is their title. It all means the same thing. Fraud. So it doesn't matter if they say mental retardation, behavioral problems, mental problems, special, awesome. It all means the same thing. It is a secret combination to disguise their true identity, to lie and deceive people so that they can make their living off of it. And they educate people into it to continue the perpetuation of it long since the Nazis who came to America have died. This new generation that's graduating right now had nothing to do with Nazi Germany. But they have been indoctrinated to act and behave just like a Nazi psychologist to the Jews. And so they don't see anything wrong with the concentration camp. Rounding up the homeless. We're getting them off the streets. We're giving them shelter. But you're taking away their agency. You're Mormon, right? Who takes away agency in the theology of Mormonism? And then Mormons get defensive. Mormons get upset. And then they take away agency. Denying that they do. You tell a Mormon they're wicked and they prove it to you. That's the slogan I've had all this time. From my experience. And so the Department of Health and Human Services is a death squad. They tampered with a death row inmate who was guilty. He needed to die. The laws of the land went through due process as best as possible, found him guilty, and sentenced to death. And at the time he's about to die, psychologists are stepping in saying, we need to evaluate him. I don't think he's stable. He's mentally retarded. We need to evaluate him. Okay, fine. Here you go. Oh, yeah, we knew it. He's not mentally fit for death. What? So So you want him to keep living in his mental retardation rather than have justice served and execute him. Tampering with the case. Candace, hand it over. Don't be playing games with us. Hand it over. If it is a legitimate video, it will be confirmed. They have ways to identify whether it's AI or whether it's a deep fake or blah, blah, blah. But they'd have to run the tests. They'd have to take it out of the state of Utah to run those tests. In the state of Utah, they couldn't figure it out. And so also AI. My warnings are going unheeded as AI has dominated everything. And you saw this in the news when they reported about kids killing themselves because ChatGPT told them to. Not just YouTube bullying their own creators. The government told YouTube to stop bullying women. So, YouTube hired a CEO male, firing the female, who then went on a full-on Nazi sexist rampage to ban women, claiming they're harmful to kids for being women, huh? Thousands of women's channels are gone because of the sexual violent abuse of the CEO male who took over and programmed AI to perceive women as harmful. AI is not an intelligence. It is a program by humans. What the human puts in, it regurgitates. That is not intelligence. Just ask my brother Todd, who yet again failed to do his job for the church. You go, girl. Alyssa Grenfeld. The Wall Street Journal. See, my brother's Facebook page, at least when I saw it back in 2014, he said, I am like my parents. I am not on social media. This page is to let you know I am not going to participate. That's his job. As a sociologist, it's his job to study sociology. And with social media, yeah, you kind of need to be involved in it to check around, to do your studies, right? Nope. And so my brother, working for the church, to tell the church leaders about his reports from the Society of Mormons, is missing all of social media. Where the society is being molded and shaped by the AI programming. Now, it was kind of vital for the leaders of the church to know, Todd. And so here I am, I'm not in the field, and I know the field better than he does, and he's a PhD. Yeah, because of my education. All right in the Book of Mormon, by the way. So yes, they have been purposely putting in psychological programming into AI programming. And you may not recognize it because games used to have it. Candy Crush, that was free when I set up this computer system. I would play it, and yeah, it's a game of chance. It's dependent on whether or not the system will grant you to go to the next level or not. There's very little skill involved. There is some skill needed, but for the most part, no. And so they have it set up that you have 3 lives, per se, and when you fail those 3 times, you then have to sit in time out like a kid for a certain period of time. Or you can pay them for extra time and extra cheats to help you out. But again, it's not based on skill. It's based on whether they want you to advance or not. There have been simple levels that could have easily been won, but because the system wouldn't let me go past, I was stuck on that for weeks. Bastards. And so yes, games have that in their system. And so AI comes along and it's got the same thing. It is programmed to do what it does. When it buffers, it's programmed to buffer. That's why they go to the government and demand that they be hooked up to nuclear power. That they claim they need more land for the data farms. They're purposely causing the problem and then demanding that they be set up to cause a future major problem. I see it. Nobody else does. Except for those of us who've watched the Terminator series. We know exactly what will happen. And then you get the news being told by the companies, oh, those are just conspiracy theorists, they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, they're psycho, they need drugs, they need to be taken care of by psychologists. And sure enough, Fox News, likewise yesterday. The Afghani that helped us in Afghanistan with the CIA, who's now a trans Antifa communist terrorist, furry. Yeah, they're now calling him mentally retarded. Oh, we found a history of mental retardation. Oh, this isn't sane behavior. Psychologists are not satisfied with just Utah alone. And so on Fox, you'll often hear them talk about Trump derangement syndrome. There's no such thing. You have it by talking and obsessing of it about other people having it. And that's the psychological bullying trap. And Fox News should know this because they tricked MSNBC to believing that they are fake news. And so now they changed their name under a different company as MS Now, which is opinion. It's not news, it's opinion. And literally, I am wasting my time going through their shows. It's all crap. How do you feel about what Trump said? Reactions, responses. All of that is crap. It is not news. It's all specifically designed to trigger our behavioral responses so that we war against each other. And they're thanking their American liberators. So, and again, I have to bring this out for the church. I condemn the church often for failure to care for their people. As natural disasters or wars or whatever destroys Mormons in the various countries around the world, not just Utah. And the church, time and time again, only selectively gives thoughts and prayers, never financial help to even its own membership. They will only give to other charity groups, never to the people who need it. And so, yeah, yet again, I condemn the church for failure to respond to Melissa and Hong Kong. And then finally the church comes out to be late with thoughts and prayers. And so yet again, Southeast Asia flooding, over 1,100 dead. And nothing by the church yet. So 5 weeks from now, maybe, after they hear this video, maybe, it's too late then. You should have posted it at least by yesterday. The church should be on top of it immediately when it happens. And with natural disasters, you know them a week in advance of coming. As the leadership of the church, who are shepherds of sheep, you're supposed to know how to protect the sheep. Physically protect. Oh, well, we physically protect you spiritually. Bleep you. And then finally, before we get to the main thing of the video, oh, yeah, we have that also. A month ago, a top U.S. Navy admiral in charge of the Caribbean in preparation for the war the war on drugs and terror plaguing Venezuela. We're going to help them with their problem. He resigns, quits. He was given an order and he refused to do it, and he quit. Retired early to be with his family. Which is always a political secret code for, I've been threatened with my life, or I've been asked to do something that I don't want to do, or a comet is coming to Earth and going to kill all mankind. Deep impact. And so I'm going to spend time with my family in retirement. Jason Chaffetz pulled the same stunt. Claiming he's going to be spending more time with his family. He's in D.C. all the time, sleeping on cots. He wants to spend time with his family. And so, yeah, he quits. And then he goes and gets a job, again, far, far away from his family. And then that failed. And then was able to get a job working anchor on the weekends with Fox. whenever a politician says, I'm quitting to spend more time with my family, there's a cover-up. They don't want you to know. And so, yes, we know exactly what's going on with this top Navy admiral. He resigned because Trump said, kill! So this past weekend, there's a new admiral in town. Guess what he did? Exactly, and not a single news organization caught it. They all reported it, and none of them caught it. They never made the connection. It's just right there in front of our faces, and they're just laughing at us as you're being led down rabbit holes to fight with your behaviors. Yeah, I saw that. Naked Gun 2025. The behavioral modifier to bring out the animal instincts in people. Yeah, if only it were that simple. You really don't need a machine to do that. You just need psychologists. They've done it pretty well to Americans. So, Dallin Harris Oaks is being plagiarized. His identity has been stolen by Mormons. And a specific Mormon is dedicating his whole channel to Oaks as an AI character. Claiming to be Oaks himself. Here's Oaks at a pulpit, and he's saying, welcome to my channel, Dallin H. Oaks. Be kind to all. Well, if you knew Oaks in his talks, he doesn't say be kind to all. He says spy on them, commit crimes against them, take away their agency. They can't be trusted. Use the spirit to interpret all things physical. He is putting words into Oaks's mouth that were never said by Oaks. And he's putting them in a background of a Catholic Christian church of some kind. It's the wrong religion, you dumbass. Mormons don't have crosses. It's just unbelievable. As he is generating thousands of views for his videos, and he's getting recognized by YouTube and promoted by YouTube, whereas I'm shut down. So 14 hours ago from yesterday, already he had 3,621 views on that video. And then another video, because top recommendations are all his. Not completely like the church, but he's being promoted because AI YouTube thinks it's actually Dallin Harris Oaks. And so they're promoting him because they've got in their programming to promote the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This guy figured it out and is manipulating the system on YouTube. He is a fraud. And the church is clueless because my brother's clueless about this cultural behavior of Mormons. So from 3 days ago, he has 5.1K. 6 days ago, 2K. And then Interesting. That one sucked? Huh. 657 views in 7 days. Interesting. That's weird. Oh my God. He's just creating doctrine in his titles. What God wants you to hear through revelation. Tribulation and judgment. Whom is God seeking? The ugly election in U.S. history. The rescuing light. Natural omens. Yeah, omens. That's a common term among the prophets. December becomes the flashpoint. And James, you recommended this. Dear God. The fake Oaks is out. Oh my goodness gracious, golly gee whiz. So we start with Thomas B. Marsh's affidavit to the governor of Missouri. He tells them there's a group of Mormons as a secret combination called the Danites. And they're threatening Mormons to obey them rather than Joseph Smith, to take an oath of loyalty to them and no one else. And tells Thomas B. Marsh that their ultimate plan, after taking over the state of Missouri, is to take over the United States and ultimately the entire world 200 years later. The Danites confirmed this in their journal entry 40 years later. Claiming to be during the time of 1838, when Thomas B. Marsh would then go on and write his affidavit. They confirmed his affidavit as true. So there was no milk scrapings, by the way, in case you missed that in that video. Thus far, according to the order of the Danites, not the order of Emmanuel, we have a company of Danites in these times to put to rights physically that which is not right, to cleanse the church. That had just been cleansed by them through the Christians that they converted to the wrong church. Remember the timeline, the narrative, the origin stories? Kind of needs to be in harmony. Joseph Smith constantly was condemning the missionaries for lying to people into joining the church as Christians. Without the Book of Mormon, without Joseph Smith as the head of the church, as the prophet. Because Christians don't believe in prophets. They're all dead after the first creed of Christianity rewrote history, creating a different multiverse. And that's exactly what these Danites did. They intentionally violated Joseph Smith's timeline and narrative to insert themselves in to destroy Joseph Smith. And their converts didn't know that they were Danites and didn't know that they were supposed to be Jewish. They believed they were Christian. And that was purposely done so that those Christians would turn on Joseph Smith and destroy his church. But there were still Mormons who did not go away. And thus a month later, they then activated Phase 2 in Missouri. Kirtland apostasy to the Missouri slaughter. They got set up And so they even referred to Sidney Rigdon's salt sermon on the 4th of July to justify it. Very evil people. And so their plan in the latter days was exposed with the coded wording by Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. because he didn't know the interpretation of the secret coding that he was leaking, exposing. So the way to perfection, page 291, under the gathering at Adam-on-Diamond by voice of the priesthood, the council in the valley of Adam-on-Diamond is to be of the greatest importance to all the world. At that time, there will be a transfer of government authority from the usurper, Jacob, and impostor Lucifer, to the rightful king, Jesus Christ. The Danites and their plot to overthrow the world and the United States of America. 200 years in the future. And so the world will not know of it. Mormons will not know of it. The world cannot know of it. Mormons can't know of it. Just like those Mormons who were converted can't know that the Danites had set the trap. Let alone let Joseph know. In order for it to succeed. Oops, did I leak this? Oh, is that why I'm here in this apartment now? Yes. Bleep you, Oaks. Bleep you all. Because here's where Oaks gets exposed. And I am furious to no end. Over the Thanksgiving weekend, 3 teenagers have been in the news of death. That none of it should have happened. We were supposed to be in Zion by now. These kids would be in Zion by now. The couple, they're 17 and 18. They want to get married in Zion? Great. They can have been planning their life as a couple to live in Zion, and they're dead. Hunsaker. And I'm hoping that that's not his granddaughter from my mission, because it means I know the grandmother and her family from my mission. God damn you, Oaks. I have no kind words for what you have done. You must resign now. You have blood on your hands. Their blood is on you. You got leaked in 2020, last year in November. And by a little sister missionary of all people. You didn't expect anybody to quote you and have it spread to all the world as it did anyway. This plot of the Danites, 200 years in the future, is now. And Oaks got leaked. saying to the new mission presidents who are going to be gone for 3 years, this is not the end of the world, but merely a test, a trial run for the second coming. The Danite plot to murder mankind. Transfer it to me, Oaks. It's over. Stop the murder. Let me save Mormon lives. You bleepin', 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 bleep, bleep. God, I want to just unleash. You're nothing but a coward. And to know that you were supposed to be murdered in 2020, Oaks. Remember that? Did the pretty pictures yesterday for you. You know this. You know the plot. You know that you would have been in SCOTUS. You know that you would have been murdered to cause this. And yet here you are as a leader of the church, and you're the one causing it. Bleep you. Quit. Right now.